हमारी एक्सपर्ट हैं जो शुरू से प्रोग्रेसिव एस्पिरेंट्स फोरम का हिस्सा रही हैं और उन्होंने इंटरव्यूज के टाइम पर भी कैंडिडेट्स को बहुत हेल्प की थी। उन्होंने जो फीडबैक दिए उससे जो एस्पिरेंट्स हैं, कैंडिडेट्स हैं, उन्होंने अलग से इंडिविजुअली उनको थैंक्स बोला है। प्रोग्रेसिव एस्पिरेंट्स फोरम को मैसेजेस ड्रॉप किए कि स्वाति हंस हमारे बीच में अभी मौजूद हैं। स्वाति हंस मैम के लिए बहुत अप्रिशिएट किया गया है। और अभी भी कैंडिडेट्स जब मिलते हैं, मुझे बात करते हैं, मैसेजेस करते हैं, तो स्वाति मैम के बारे में जरूर बात करते हैं क्योंकि उन्होंने बहुत ज्यादा जो साइकोलॉजिकल एस्पेक्ट्स थे इंटरव्यू प्रिपरेशंस में, कैसे आपकी बॉडी लैंग्वेज होनी चाहिए, कैसे आपको काम रहना है, कंपोज रहना है इंटरव्यू में, क्या आपकी जो एक मेंटल स्टेट होनी चाहिए उसको कैसे हेल्दी रखा जाए, उससे रिलेटेड बहुत अच्छे टिप्स स्वाति मैम ने उस टाइम भी प्रोवाइड किए थे। और आज भी हम इक्वली फॉर्चुनेट हैं कि दैट शी हैज जॉइंड अवर प्लेटफॉर्म एंड शी विल बी गिविंग हर टॉक। वो एक प्रैक्टिसिंग क्लिनिकल साइकोलॉजिस्ट हैं। उनका अपना एक क्लिनिक है ग्रेटर कैलाश में। शी इज ऑल्सो अ रिसर्च स्कॉलर इन DU एंड ऑल्सो अ फैकल्टी देयर। और वो शी इज नोन फॉर टेकिंग अप एडोलेसेंट एंड यंग एडल्ट इश्यूज। और पहले भी वो लेडी हार्डिंग मेडिकल कॉलेज में एसोसिएटेड रही, क्लिनिकल साइकोलॉजिस्ट रही है वो। और जो हिबास है, बहुत वन ऑफ द मोस्ट रिनाउंड मेंटल हेल्थ इंस्टीट्यूशंस ऑफ इंडिया, उससे उन्होंने एमफिल किया हुआ है साइकोलॉजी में। तो हमारे सेशन में पहले स्वाति मैम ही सेशन को आगे बढ़ाएंगी, स्टार्ट करती हैं। तो मैं रिक्वेस्ट करूंगी स्वाति मैम से कि वो सेशन को आगे लेकर के चलें और एनलाइटन करें। जो भी लोग इस इशू से जूझ रहे हैं, स्ट्रगल कर रहे हैं तैयारी के इस इकोसिस्टम में, कैसे कैसे प्रॉब्लम्स वो फेस करते हैं हर तरह के, जहां एक तरफ फैमिली का प्रेशर होता है, 20s का जो पूरा डेकेड है उसमें डिफरेंट प्रेशर्स उनको फेस करने होते हैं। जहां एक तरफ जॉब लेने की टेंशन है कि जल्दी से हम सेटल हो जाएं, वहां फैमिली भी प्रेशराइज करती है कि भाई जल्दी करो, शादी भी करनी है। तो बहुत सारे जो मुद्दे हैं, विषय हैं, उनके ऊपर स्वाति मैम एनलाइटन करेंगी। स्वाति मैम, आई रिक्वेस्ट यू टू टेक दिस सेशन फॉरवर्ड और आप आगे बढ़ें, आगे सेशन को लेके चलिए।
Okay. Thank you so much, Anjali ma'am, for such a lovely introduction. So, good morning, everyone. I hope all of you are doing well. So, today, the problem that we're going to discuss is about how to manage our day-to-day anxiety, right? So, it's not only about managing anxiety during your exam times, it's also about how you manage anxiety or stress levels on a day-to-day basis. So, we all have heard the saying that too much of a good thing is not necessarily beneficial. And we also know that if there is moderation and balance, it helps you out in some way. It will improve your mental health also. So these rules hold valid when it comes to mental health. So it's common knowledge that a little bit of competition can push you out of your comfort zone, can help you to perform well in certain areas. But when it gets excessive, then it's a problem. So when we talk about anxiety and stress, basically, I mean, we use the term interchangeably, right? So would anyone like to mention the advantages and disadvantages of anxiety and stress? Anyone?
Nancy, please unmute the participants so that they can respond.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Someone has raised a hand.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yes, हिमांशु, उनको जरा अलाउ कर दीजिए बोलने के लिए.
Yes, ma'am, I've done it. They can unmute themselves.
Yeah, who is that person? Solanki, some.
Yes, ma'am, I am Vijay Solanki. एक्चुअल एग्जाम में एंजाइटी होती है तो डिसएडवांटेज ये है कि जो हमारे प्रॉपर वर्क होते हैं वो प्रॉपर वे में नहीं होते. कहीं ना कहीं ऐसी एरर होती है जो हम समझते हैं कि हमने राइट किया, चाहे एग्जाम सेंटर में हो चाहे आउट ऑफ एग्जाम सेंटर हो. अगर हम इससे फ्री होते हैं, स्ट्रेस लेवल से फ्री होते हैं, तो हमने जो भी प्रॉपर वर्क किया होता है, जो हमारी किसी चीज को समझने की, अंडरस्टैंड करने की जो पावर होती है वो मैक्सिमम हो जाती है. और
Hmm.
स्ट्रेस में
Yeah.
हमारी जो पावर है समझने की, जो हमारे आंखों के सामने भी होता है, तो कहीं ना कहीं हम चीजें गैप में चले जाते हैं और उस गैप की वजह से हमारी जो चीजें हैं वो गलत हो जाती
Hmm. True, true. So we know anxiety as something which is very scary, right? I mean, if someone is anxious, then it obviously sort of ruins your mood, makes you, more distracted, more upset. But can anyone mention any advantages of anxiety or stress? Do you think that there are few advantages of anxiety?
Ma'am, how I understand is that a small amount of stress is actually beneficial for you,
Yeah, true,
because
true.
then after the body gets through it, it actually becomes stronger. And next time when we face the similar thing, it doesn't stress us that much. So
Hmm,
that's how I understand it.
hmm. Yeah. So, like a minimal amount of anxiety is required for you to get out of your comfort zone and to perform, right? I mean, if you won't be anxious, let's say for 5% or 10%, you won't be passionate about, that task or that particular assignment, right? So, little bit of anxiety is required at times. So it should not be chronic, obviously, but yeah, a small amount of anxiety is required at times. So today I am going to explain a way of thinking about stress and anxiety, which can transform stress from being something bad that happens to you into something that you can channel to be more productive, and it can help you to feel a lot more calmer basically. So I'll give you an example. So I'll give you an example using a story so that you can understand the nature of anxiety and stress basically. So there is this boy and his farming family in the 1880s. So they survived off what they grew. So during the month of July, when they got their corn starting to sprout in the fields, the weather started to get a little weird. So it seemed that it'll freeze. So before going to the bed, the parents, they started to worry a little bit about the crops. They don't go to sleep, they will stay up, they watch the temperature, and sure enough, it starts to freeze. So they got all of their kids out of the bed in the middle of the night, and the only way to save the corn is to pour water on each of these tiny little stalks before the sun comes up. So if they don't do it, obviously they'll lose their harvest, they'll have nothing to eat. So every member of the family, they anxiously run through the night, hand watering each of those little corn sprouts in acres and acres of the field. So by the time the sun rose, they had managed to save most of their crops. So they were exhausted, but they were also content by the fact that they did something, right? So they were exhausted, they were tired, they were feeling really anxious. But instead of sitting back, they decided to perform. They decided to use that anxiety to something, and turn it into something productive, basically. So after they got done with that work, they did the rest of their morning chores also. They were able to appreciate the hard work they've done. So the stress response is your body's activating response. So when you sense a threat, I mean, if we talk in this case, in this example, this was their livelihood that was about to be destroyed, right? So when you have some threat or some fear, that is when anxiety kicks in, right? So your body turns on this sympathetic response and it sends out some adrenaline to spur you into action. It'll heighten your breathing, it'll make your heart beat faster, and it'll prep you for performance basically. So although we know that anxiety is bad, but at times it basically kicks you for that action, that performance, right? And which is very much required. So if we talk about this example particularly, the anxiety, the stress, it helped them to be vigilant, not to sleep, and to take this, this impressive physical action. So the stress response potentially saved them from complete crop failure. So anxiety is not something bad that happens to you, it serves a function, which is performance. If there won't be anxiety, if there won't be I would say a little bit of discomfort, you won't try for things, right? But if we talk about the modern day language, we can often like confuse anxiety with anxiety disorder, and it's given this negative connotation. um, it gets pretty hard for us to manage it, right? But anxiety is not something that is out to get you. It's your body and mind's way of telling you that you have to get up and perform some action, right? So it brings you into that performance mode. So if you know how to channel it properly, if you know how to manage it properly, then obviously, you can perform better, you can feel better, right? So when you think of anxiety as a motivating energy to resolve problem, it can become a powerful tool instead of something bad that happens to you, something that you have to avoid. Because all of us know that the more we avoid, the more we run away from anxiety, it's obviously going to make us feel more scared, right? And it's going to create more discomfort. So at times it's important that you stay in that moment and tackle that anxiety instead of running away from it. So if we talk about the example that I gave you, I mean, the kind of problem that the boy and his farming family were having, they were quite different from the kind of problems that we face in our modern world, right? Although we have evolved, our brains have evolved, but a lot of us, we don't know how to manage our day to day anxiety, right? So today I'm going to talk about 10 very basic and important areas that we need to consider when we talk about anxiety management. And then we'll move on to specific tips and techniques that you can use when you have, let's say, an anxiety attack or when you feel intensely anxious, basically. So, before we jump into the discussion of those specific points, I would like to know if you guys use any specific method or technique to tackle your anxiety. Would anyone, I mean, like to share? Okay, Prashant, go ahead. Just a second. Yeah. Prashant, please unmute yourself. Yeah.
यस मैम, गुड मॉर्निंग मैम। मैम जब भी
Good
मैम
morning.
कभी स्ट्रेस या एंजाइटी होती है तो
Mm-hmm.
लगभग पिछले 6 महीनों से मैं शाम को डायरी राइटिंग करता हूँ और मॉर्निंग में योगा,
Oh.
तो जिससे मुझे थोड़ा मतलब स्ट्रेस फ्री महसूस करता हूँ।
Oh, that is very good. I mean, diary writing or journaling is a very good way of getting rid of that stress, right? All right. Thank you so much, Prashant. Thank you so much for sharing your experience. Thank you. All right. Anyone else? Okay. We have one more person here. Gopi
मैम
Kishan. Mm-hmm.
ये गुड मॉर्निंग मैम।
Good morning.
मैम मुझे जब भी एंजाइटी होती है मैम, मैं बायोपिक चीजें देख लेता हूँ, मतलब जो महान लोग हुए हैं उनकी उनकी जीवनी पढ़ लेता हूँ मैम, तो
Okay.
उससे भी मुझे हेल्प मिलती है मैम।
Okay.
थैंक यू।
Yeah, that is also a very good way of dealing with anxiety. Kabhi kabhi we also need to hear something which is, encouraging and uplifting enough. So it's a very good way of dealing with your anxiety. Thank you so much, Gopi, for sharing your experience. Thank you. All right. Anyone else? Okay. Okay, we have two more people here. All right. Hmm.
Hello. Yeah, I'm
Hello.
Abhishek Srivastav. I am from Samsung Electronics, Noida.
Mm-hmm.
So, what I feel that sometimes we encourage our employees to listen to music or get involved into some sports activity to deal with the anxiety situations. So, I think that music has got a major role to play
Yeah,
in
definitely.
terms of coping up with the anxiety, other than all other activities mentioned by other participants.
Yeah, music is also a good way, and even sports also. I mean,
Yeah.
if you can include a little bit of movement in your day-to-day routine, I mean, it really helps you out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Abhishek. Yashwant,
Good morning, ma'am. Good morning,
good
everyone.
morning. Good morning.
Ma'am, I basically try to switch from emotional focused coping strategies like
Mm-hmm.
talking to somebody or etc. to problem focused coping strategies. For example, doing a
Okay.
small action which will help me reduce the anxiety. And
Okay.
it reinforces the thought that yes, I'm one step closer to my goal and I have done something concrete towards reducing the gap
Mm.
existing
Mm.
in my towards my goal.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. So small actions. For example, you have to complete the syllabus of a one particular subject per se for the civil services
Yeah.
examination. So I try to complete one topic, and I
Hmm.
said so that it reinforces my thought that okay, I have completed one topic, and now one less topic is remaining for this out of the syllabus that I have to cover.
All right, wonderful, wonderful. I mean, this is also a very good way of gaining that self-control as well as gaining that sense of completion that yes, I have
Yes,
done
it
something, right?
improves my self-efficacy also.
Yeah, yeah, true, true. Thank you, Yashwant.
Welcome, ma'am.
All right. Gopi, you want to say something again? You've raised your hand.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
All right, all right. Okay, okay. All right. So we'll move on with the discussion now. Okay. So a lot of examples that you guys have given me will be included in today's discussion. So I'm really glad that you guys are already using such healthy ways of coping with anxiety, right? So the first thing that we're going to discuss is resolving the physical stress response with exercise. So many of us face this problem because many of our modern day stressors, they're connected to the problems that we cannot solve physically. So if we talk about the example that I gave to you in that boy's case, when they were worried, they got that sudden jolt of adrenaline and cortisol, and they were able to use that physical energy to solve the problem. So they didn't feel stressed afterwards because they burned off that adrenaline, right? And cortisol when they were like running around solving the problems. So for many of us, our modern day stressors are things like assignments or deadlines or covering up syllabus. So if I'm stressed about a problem at work, I may not sleep, I may not be able to like focus on anything. So to burn out that adrenaline, I need to do one thing at a time. Maybe choose a topic or choose a chapter that you need to cover, right? Or finish your assignment basically. But um, so it can decrease overall levels of tension, it can elevate your mood, and it can also improve your sleep. It can improve your self esteem also. So if you can include a little bit of exercise, day to day exercise in your day to day routine, it can be very, very effective, right? Um, so the first thing that I'm going to encourage you to do is to just find a way to add some movement to your day so that you can burn off that sudden, rush, the sudden arousal that happens. Right. Moving on to the next part, which is very important, is how you start with your morning. So let's talk about our morning routine because what you're going to do in the morning, like the first thing that you're going to do in the morning, is going to set tone for your entire day. So if you're like many people, the first thing that you do might increase your anxiety. Like this is what it looks like for a lot of people. Like you're tired because you went to bed a little bit late, and the first thing you do is that you start scrolling through your phone. You look at social media and news, then you drink some caffeine. And now if we talk about caffeine, it's the most widely used psychoactive drug in the world. It crosses that blood brain barrier in seconds, and it'll make you feel more alert, reducing the adenosine. So adenosine is basically a chemical which helps you to relax. Right, so it'll make you feel more irritated and more agitated. So now, if you keep on increasing that caffeine intake, obviously you will develop a tolerance to the alerting effects of caffeine. But uh, now the anxiety inducing effects of caffeine, they're not going to go away anywhere. They are going to stay in your system for at least, let's say, 48 hours. And caffeine is also shown to contribute to anxiety and depressive disorders in a lot of researches that have been done. So, if you are actually serious about decreasing your anxiety, try to get caffeine out of your system completely. I mean, at least cut down the intake for at least 3 days and then you can see the changes, right? So, just make one little change every month because there is no quick, easy fix to deal with anxiety in general, right? So, how many of you actually indulge in, drinking a lot of coffee or caffeine related products whenever you feel anxious or whenever you cannot sleep?
Majority, yes.
Majority, right? Yeah.
Yeah. We
And
start our day with coffee, and yes, during the daytime also, when we are there in the office or when we are in studies. So I
mm-hmm.
believe during our preparation time also for civil services, I mean,
Hmm.
this was something on which we were mostly relying coffee,
Hmm.
tea, and other
Hmm.
activities. Yeah.
Hmm. All right. So now that we know, like most of us are indulging in excessive intake of caffeine related products, so we should be a little careful about it. So I won't advise you to like completely cut down the intake, but try to reduce it a little bit if you can. I think it'll be a little beneficial to you. Right. So moving on to the next part, the third point, which is very important. It's don't let media control your adrenaline glands. So there is this 24/7 stream of disaster around the world. So whenever you, let's say, open your phone, open the television, right, there is this constant stream of disaster happening around. So these kind of news, they trigger a stress response as if we are in physical danger, but they don't give us any place to act or to create safety. So if you wake up in the morning and if you just start scrolling through your feeds and you watch the news, you're basically letting the external I would say things take control over your adrenaline glands, and you'll feel more stressed. So I won't say that don't watch news or don't scroll through your phone, but whenever you get up in the morning, just take some time for yourself, like sit back for a second, think about what do you want the tone of your day to be like. I mean, like for me, I would want my day to be more upbeat, calm, self-assured, and peaceful and powerful. Now, what kind of media does that? It may be meditation or journaling. Like, I think someone gave me an example of journaling also. So you can do that also in the morning, listen to uplifting music. So it's important to choose a good activity or something that gives you that positive kick in the morning instead of indulging into something which triggers you more, right? So choose the first activity that you do in the morning very wisely, right? Moving on to the fourth important point, which is turning on the parasympathetic response by marking tasks as complete. Someone also mentioned something about doing at least a little bit of work so that I feel closer to my goals. So does anyone knows what parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system does, the difference? All right. Okay, so I'll make it very brief and clear. So we have two different parts of our nervous system. One is sympathetic and the other one is parasympathetic. So the sympathetic nervous system is more activated when you are in that anxious, constant fight, flight, or freeze mode. And parasympathetic is the one which is more active when you are at rest, when your body is at rest, basically. So now we'll talk about how to turn on that parasympathetic response so that it can help you feel a lot more calmer so that you can focus on your things. So body has a natural balancing reaction to stress response. The parasympathetic response, for most of us, we don't know how to turn it on. So you can do this thing either by trying some distraction techniques to manage anxiety or trying some grounding exercises. I think the most basic one that we can do is by using some breathing exercises.
Ma'am, you are muted.
Okay, all right.
Ma'am, it was for last 5 seconds. Yes.
Last 5 seconds? All right then. Okay. All right. So I was asking, have any one of you ever tried any breathing or relaxation techniques ever?
Yes, we started this activity in our office every day
Mm-hmm.
when we go to the office. So before we start our work at 8:30, so 10 minutes of time we give for that dex exercise, in which we have started this activity of deep breathing, and also
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we have got some aerobics of 5 minutes which we do at the workplace itself. So both the activities has helped us a lot in terms of starting our day.
Hmm.
So is that is a very good contributor and stress buster activity which we perform daily day at our office in Samsung.
Oh, that's good. That is really great. So, would you like to share how you guys practice that deep breathing technique?
Actually, we have a counselor with us, and we have got the display system arranged. So we all have been asked to just keep our phone in silent mode, and we just sit ideal at our seat and closing our eyes, and then we just have to deep breathe, inhale and exhale. Okay,
Hmm.
because since we are in our office environment, so we cannot do in that yoga posture completely. But yes, in whatever positions we are in our office, we perform this activity for 2 minutes every day, and then we move on to that a few minutes of physical exercise, and then we start the day every day.
All right, all right. Okay. Thank you, Abhishek. Okay. So maybe we can practice it right now if you guys want. Okay, Hemant
Yeah,
wants to say something.
yeah, we would like to learn this.
I have tried the square breathing technique, which is basically just you breathe for 4 seconds, inhale for 4 seconds, then you hold it for four
Four
seconds, and
seconds.
then release for 4 seconds. So that is one. And second one is that
Yeah.
6 breath per minute. You only breathe 6 times in
Hmm.
a minute. So these are the techniques that
Six
I
times in
use.
a minute. Okay. Yeah. I mean, square breathing is like one of the best and easiest way of, relaxing and calming yourself. All right. So I want all of you to, I mean, wherever you're sitting, just make sure that you're comfortable enough, like you're feeling comfortable. I want you to close your eyes for some time. And now we'll do deep breathing. So all you have to do is you have to inhale via your nose, hold your breath for a few seconds, and then exhale via nose. So we'll use the 4-4-8 rule. So the time you take in inhaling should be less than the time you take in exhaling. So while you're exhaling, you have to spend more time, right? So you take 4 seconds for inhaling, 4 seconds in holding the breath, and 8 seconds to exhale. So I want you to try this for at least 2 minutes. All right. Okay. So I want to know, was it like easy or was it hard?
It was easy and it was good to learn the technique, because till now whatever way we were breathing in and breathing out, but yes, this 4-4-8 second activity is something that we all must
Hmm.
practice. This is probably the better technique of doing this inhale exhale activity.
Hmm. All right. Hemant wants to say something. Hmm. Yes, Hemant, please go ahead.
I'm not to just saying that or invalidating all these methods, but why are humans are supposed to do these exercises? None of the animals do them. They're not required to. Then could you please explain and build on this that why a human requires meditation and breathing techniques whereas animals don't?
Okay. Don't, I mean, we have different needs, right? When we talk about daily stresses and anxiety and, daily hassles, have you ever talked to any animal about this? Obviously, you cannot, right? See, we have different needs, different requirements, and the kind of, I would say, the era that we're living in. Although we have we have evolved a lot through the years, decades, centuries, right? Our brain has also evolved, but the kind of challenges, the modern day stressors, they are quite different from obviously what animals are facing in their natural habitat, right? So obviously we need to learn skills to manage these things. All right, so before I jump to the next part, I want to remind you one thing. So whenever you're practicing this particular breathing technique or any breathing technique, I want you to pay attention, like full attention to how you're inhaling and exhaling and how your stomach and your chest is, rising and falling with each and every breath. So that you can stay in touch with your senses and your mind doesn't keep on like wavering to past or to the future. Right? All right. So we were talking about how to turn on that parasympathetic response, right? So the most simple way of turning on the parasympathetic response is by completing the task that you have kept aside or that you were like procrastinating about. But in our virtual world, even if we do complete our task or even if we do resolve a problem, it is hard to see, the effects, the results. So my next tip is to find a way to acknowledge your growth when you set down a task. You make it concrete. So for me, it might look like, um, you know, making checklist or making to-do list so that I can check off the task that I have done so that I can feel that sense of completion. So now there are a lot of ways of doing this particular thing. You can use journaling also to acknowledge your day-to-day progress. So basically you need to find out some tangible way to celebrate your success. Now this can be really hard to do with long running stress or long term projects. So the idea is to choose when to carry something mentally heavy and when to set it down so that this would be as simple as turning off the notifications on your phone or setting boundaries at work about when the other people can approach you, when they can contact you or when they cannot. So find out something manual that you can complete, because I think there's something relieving to see physical progress. There is something different about the physical task, so when you complete them, you'll get this feeling that okay, I have done something, I am all right, I am safe, and that stress response also like reduces to some extent. Moving on to the fifth part, which is running away from anxiety makes it worse. So what are you supposed to do at that time? So managing anxiety is about being intentional and in control instead of being reactionary. So I have this pic in my mind of me as a kid coming home from playing at a friend's or an uncle's place where it's evening time, it's starting to get dark, and I grew up in a super safe town. So when it started to get dark and I was like walking home, you know how it feels like there's this tingle in the back of your neck and you feel that okay, someone is following me, maybe something is behind. So what you do is, out of that fear reaction, you try to run away, you try to run as faster as you can. So that running reaction doesn't really like protects you from anything, it increases that fear, that anxiety more. So if we talk about our day-to-day stressors, I mean, we can relate this example to the day-to-day stressors also, because whenever we feel anxious, there are certain physiological changes happening in our body. Either you start experiencing that heaviness in your chest, sudden headache, some kind of tingling sensation in your limbs, some restlessness. So whenever we have that kind of discomfort, the first reaction, the first thing that we do is we run away from that situation, or we try to work hard and hard and harder, right? So that is not going to solve the problem in an effective way, right? So we have to at times learn how to calm down, how to relax for a bit, because most of us, we have this tendency to fill our every waking moment with busyness, because we feel if we are busy 24/7, things will be more productive and more effective. But you have to like calm down for some time, maybe try some distraction techniques, or maybe try some self-soothing techniques which can help you to regulate your nervous system throughout the day, so that even if you are engaging in work, even if you are doing something, you're not in that hyperventilated zone, you can calmly effectively get by the day, right? So at times you just need to sit, breathe, slow down a little bit. You don't have to rush after things. Okay. The next important point that I think is important to discuss is how you regulate your nervous system throughout the day. So, our brain is not very good at multitasking. It can trigger that sympathetic fight, flight, or freeze reaction whenever something new comes. So, whenever we experience something new, something novel, we basically consider it as a threat, and it gets quite overwhelming for us. So one thing that you need to do to stay calm is, I won't advise you to do meditation particularly, but maybe we can try out some mindfulness exercises. So has any one of you ever tried anything related to mindfulness, or is aware of what mindfulness exactly means? Anyone? So, have you ever heard about the term mindfulness? Let's keep aside the activities, but have you ever heard about the term, what mindfulness exactly means?
Is it about the state of being mentally aware about the present moment?
Yeah,
Do we talk about
yeah,
that we are
yes, yes,
conscious, we are acknowledging our present moment, what is happening?
yeah, yeah, yeah. We're talking about that only. Thank you so much, Abhishek. So, by being mindful, we exactly okay. Just a second. All right. So, when I talk about mindfulness, I'm not talking about any sort of meditation or yoga. I'm talking more about being in the present. It's more about the here and now experience, rather than thinking about the past or the future, or being judgmental about your own or other people's reaction. So we cannot be mindful 24/7, but we can try and practice mindfulness once in a while, right? So the easiest way of being mindful, or easiest practice of being mindful, is whatever activity that you're engaging in, just sit back and, I mean, pretend that you are the observer of that situation. You just have to observe what is going on around. Just take a minute to just calm down and sit and just see and observe. Or another way in which you can practice it is, let's say I'm feeling pretty overwhelmed right now. So what I can do is, let's say I'll pick an object which is near. Let's say I've taken this bottle. So I'll try to describe the details of this bottle in my head. So how does the bottle looks like? What is the color? What is the shape of it? What is the texture like? Is there a label on it? What does the label says? Is it full? Is it half filled? When I pick the bottle, how does the texture of the bottle feels like on my skin? Is it heavy or is it light? So just take a minute or so to like describe the characteristic of a particular thing. If you don't have any tangible thing that you can touch and describe, you can probably close your eyes and try to imagine something. Let's say describe a flower in your mind, right? So this can give you that small brief break from that continuous vicious cycle of anxiety that you're stuck in. So you can probably practice that at times. All right. Moving on to the next part. So let's talk about the big picture and small picture. So stress is not a problem. Chronic unresolved stress is. So this is the problem of the brain not knowing how to sort or manage all the stimulation and all the triggers and all the threats that come at it. And when we feel that there are too many things coming at us, our brain interprets that as if we're being attacked or as if we're in danger. So if you have got so many things that feel urgent, right? But you can't do all of them. Your brain can go into a total shutdown mode. It can get so overwhelmed that you feel total numbness and you don't feel like doing anything. So, what do we do with this is that you take one thing at a time, right? Uh, you have a lot of things that you want to, do, you want to complete, but ideally and logically also, like you cannot complete everything, right? So probably set down some priorities, make some to-do list of things that you want to get done with. Or maybe journaling the brain dump. Let's say I have a lot of things going on in my mind. So instead of just sitting and thinking about it, I'll probably take a piece of paper and maybe write it somewhere so that my problems, I can see my problems concretely instead of just thinking about it. Because when we are only overthinking, the problems seem like an insurmountable massive, I would say, burden or huge stress. But when you write it down, you can actually see, okay, these are the 10 or 5 areas that I need to take care of, and these are my priorities, and this is something that I can deal with right now, right? So we have to be a little precise and clear in the way in which we approach our problem rather than being haphazard and confused. um, Another important area is sleep. So sir is going to talk about how to maintain a good sleep cycle and a little bit about sleep hygiene in his discussion. But I just want to say two, three important pointers about sleep. So it's really important that you get sound sleep, because to be able to sort through all the tasks, you need that executive functioning part of your brain to be working. And for that part of the brain to be working, you need enough sleep. So when your mind is rested, it can manage that excess stimulation in a better way. It can resolve anxiety when it comes up. And it gets pretty hard when you're anxious and you cannot sleep. So learning ways of how to deal with the anxiety can help you to get much more better and sound sleep in general. um Moving on to the next part, which is get better at saying no. So resolving anxiety is about gaining that little self control in life. So if you want to resolve anxiety, you may have to say no to, let's say, an occasional party, so that you get enough time to sleep, so that you don't need coffee in the morning, so that you are not stressed out and anxious throughout the day. So choosing a sustainable path instead of a frantic one, it requires careful sorting of your priorities in your life. So when we are consciously aware of what our priorities are, it becomes much more clearer, right? So we consciously choose not to overload our brain, and it can handle these tasks with more composure. And that is something that I think all of us should follow in our day-to-day life, because it will be pretty helpful for all of us. And the last main point, last but not obviously the least, which is nature. Stay in touch with the nature as much as you can. I mean, instead of sitting in your room whole day and just mugging up concepts, learning things, just go out for a walk, or maybe look at the sky. Just take few minutes to relax and calm down. Make sure that your day is not too full. Right, make it productive, but don't make it too full. And make sure that you turn off at some point, wind down in the evening at some point, so that you can relax enough and go to sleep in a better way, get adequate amount of sleep and rest, and then you can focus on your day-to-day life, day-to-day, hassles, obviously. All right. So I'm moving on to the second section of my discussion, in which I'll be discussing few anxiety relief tips that you can use when you're feeling too anxious, right? So the first thing which is very much important is obviously the breathing techniques that we have discussed. They are also like very basic and very important, but you can try out other grounding techniques also. um I'm sure all of you would have noticed that sometimes anxiety can make you feel like you're not plugged into your body or your environment, like you're moving on an autopilot. You're walking through this brain fog, this confusion. You might even be questioning if things are real, if you are a real person, or the things happening around you are real. So if you experience these kind of things, you might be suffering from some kind of depersonalization or derealization. So grounding skills can help you to stay in touch with the moment. So right now we're going to practice one grounding technique that you can probably use in your day-to-day routine whenever you feel too anxious. So can we try it if you guys are okay with it?
Yes, we can.
All right, all right. So this activity is called as sensory grounding technique. So you don't need a lot of, I would say, equipment or anything for this particular activity. All you have to do is wherever you're sitting, let's say you're sitting in your office or in your classroom or in your room, all you have to do is you just have to observe and notice, right? So this activity is called as the 5 4 3 2 1 technique. So let's say I'm sitting in my room right now, or you guys are also sitting somewhere in your room or your office right now. I want you to look at 5 things around you. Describe those 5 things in your mind, like whatever you see. Describe the details a little bit in your mind. Look at any 5 things around you. It can be anything. It can be a phone, it can be a bottle, it can be a table, chair, pen, anything. Now I want you to touch 4 different things and touch and really feel the sensation, what it's like. You can touch your clothes, you can touch your hair, you can touch anything soft that is near you, anything, any 4 things that you can touch. Now listen to 3 different things in the environment. It can be your voice, um, the sound of your breathing. It can be my voice as well. It can be the background noise. It can be anything. Now smell 2 different things in the environment. It can be anything. You can smell your clothes also. You can smell an incense stick. You can smell a candy or something. And now taste one thing. It can be anything. You can probably take a sip of water, have a candy. All right. Okay. So, would anyone like to share their experience while we were doing this particular activity and, tapping on different sensations, different senses? Um, Was it distracting enough? How did you guys felt? Would anyone like to share their experience? All right. Thank you, Saishta. Thank you for sharing your experience. All right. Okay, so moving on to the other techniques. All right. So apart from this particular technique, I mean, this can act as a good, I would say, a good distraction technique. Ashutosh, you want to ask something? Please go ahead. Okay. All right. Okay. So, moving on. So we've discussed this grounding technique, this 5 4 3 2 1 technique. Apart from this, let's say uh, you're sitting somewhere, you cannot really move or do some intense exercise or something to get rid of that anxiety, or you don't have anyone else around you that you can probably talk to or share your problems with. Another technique that you can do is try to visualize a place, a situation, or someone or something that makes you feel calm enough. So there is this activity called as safe space visualization. um, I mean, all of us have this basic fundamental need, which is the need to feel safe, right? But most of the time, when we are anxious, we don't feel safe enough. We feel hyper vigilant. We feel confused. We feel really, I would say, um, uncomfortable, right? So during those times, we can use that exercise. So if you guys want to do it, we can do it right now. It's like a 10-minute activity, or we can do it after we get done with the whole discussion. What do you guys want?
I
We
think if
will
it
do
is
it
a
after.
10-minute, yeah, if it is a 10-minute activity, we can do it afterwards, after the
Okay.
session. Yeah.
All right. All right.
Prabhat
Prabhat
was
was
saying
just
something.
saying something.
No, no. We'll do the activity afterwards because Captain Purba has joined us.
Okay. Okay.
Uh,
Sure. Sure, sir. Sure, sir.
yes.
Ashutosh, I have seen your message. We can probably have a discussion after we end this particular discussion. You can probably talk to me later.
I'll take up this question. I'll take up this question. Ashutosh question.
All right. All right. Okay. Okay. All right. Moving on with the discussion that we were having. All right. So we were talking about some grounding techniques or some relaxation techniques. I told you two techniques. Moving on to the next one. At times, experiencing intense sensation can help you a lot. For example, listening to really loud music, or a candle that has a strong scent, or maybe going and taking a warm water bath. Anything that gives your nervous system that little bit of a shock, it can be helpful. So you can do that, right? Or you can engage in some activity that basically occupies your mind. Let's say decluttering by organizing your bookshelf, organizing your cupboard or something, talking to someone, completing a task. So that can also help. Second important tip is that you make friends with your anxiety. So there is no way in which we can remove anxiety from our life. Anxiety is a normal emotion. When we think that we are in danger, when we think that we are in an unpredictable situation, when it's something important, or when we are doing something for the first time and when stakes are too high, it's natural to feel anxious, right? I mean, some of us are genetically wired to experience I mean, some of us are more biologically vulnerable to experience more anxiety than most of the people. Others have gone through different experiences that make them anxious. And then there are others that might be doing something for the first time. So different kind of situations can give anxiety to different kinds of people, right? So for some of us, it might be quite challenging to deal with new situations. But we have to understand that we are built for this. Anxiety is something that has kept our species alive for 1,000 of years. So anxiety is like that rocket fuel pumping through your body, activating your fight and flight system, getting your heart to beat faster, breathing becomes faster, your muscles will tense up. And all of this will allow you to jump higher, run faster, or fight harder. So your senses are heightened, so you are able to take more and more information. So we can't fight with anxiety, but we have to learn how to manage it and how to live with our anxiety, right? Next important tip is changing your body's chemistry. So we know that when you have this rocket fuel flowing through your body, the quickest way to reduce anxiety is by igniting that thing. So you can do this either by doing intense physical exercise, or by going for a run, going for a swim, or lifting weight, or going for a bike ride or something, right? Something that gets you into action, like we discussed earlier. Another way of managing this particular thing is by cooling your body through a dive reflex. So a lot of us, we face intense pressure, and we often experience anxiety and panic attacks because of that burden, the pressure that we are going through. So this particular technique can help you a lot. So what you have to do is to you have to fool your body into thinking that it's a dive reaction that you will feel when you will dive into an ocean, which will basically trigger your body's parasympathetic nervous system. So what you have to do is take a bowl of iced water, or let's say warm water, but ice water will be much better. So you expose only this much part of your face to cold water and hold your breath, and you have to keep that going for 15 to 30 seconds, and after that you can check your heartbeat and you can see that it'll lower down to some level. So you can try this thing. And another one is the breathing technique that we have already discussed, the 448 technique. You can try that part as well. um, and we know that our minds are amazing at making predictions, and when we are anxious, our minds get focused on danger and threat. So we increase the likelihood of danger and we imagine a catastrophe happening. So the problem is when we get stuck in these thoughts, so we try to resist them as much as we can. So it just gives them more fuel and makes them more sticky, right? So let's say if I tell you that don't think about a pink colored elephant for, let's say, 5 minutes, you'll end up thinking about it more, right? So instead of pushing yourself to completely avoid it or completely obsessing over that particular thing, let's say something pops up in my mind. So instead of believing whatever that comes into my mind, let's say my mind keeps on telling me that I am not careful, or I am being stupid, or I am doing something wrong. So instead of accepting whatever that pops up in my mind, I will try to tell myself, okay, I notice that I am having a thought which says that I am stupid. So instead of saying I am stupid, I am acknowledging the presence of that thought. That I notice that I'm having a thought like this, which is making me feel like this. So in this way, I am trying to mentally create a barrier between my thought and me. So so that I can understand whatever I'm thinking is not my reality. My thoughts are not facts. At times, my thoughts can be driven by difficult and different emotions, but those are not facts. Those are not absolute realities, right? So at times, you need to tell yourself that your thoughts might be scary, but they are not dangerous. You control what you do, not your thoughts. So you don't believe everything you think. And you know that this moment of worry, it will not last forever. It will last longer than you want it to, but it will surely pass. So you don't have to worry that much about it. And at times, when you're feeling anxious, you also need to ask yourself few important questions that you can ask yourself that what is the worst that is going to happen, or can I find a way to deal with it if it actually does happen, or what real world, concrete, tangible evidence I have that this thing will turn out to be true. So you can do a pros and cons analysis also, or you can see um, whether you have evidence for and against that particular thought, and you can, you know, choose it for yourself whether you want to take that burden or whether you want to get rid of that burden, basically. Um, Another way of handling anxiety can be by journaling your thoughts. Like, take 20 minutes for 4 days, write about all of your anxiety, the emotions that you're feeling, how they relate to your childhood, how they relate to your other emotions, and explore why you think this is happening to you. So you can write it for yourself, which can help you to remove a lot of blockages that are happening so that we don't go in that constant, loop of anxiety. Um, Other ways of dealing with anxiety can be by using probably some coping skills. Either, let's say, carry an object that makes you feel safe, talk to someone that you think will help you to calm down, ask for help whenever you need. So there's nothing weak and wrong in asking for help. When you think that things are getting quite heavy for you, just go and take help from someone, or take an action that actually, reduces danger. Or instead of using those negative, I would say, self critical statements, because the kind of things that we tell ourselves are going to basically get registered here, right? And then that is going to guide our whole life. So instead of telling ourselves the negative things, if we can identify that, we're doing a lot of negative self talk, try to change that negative self talk with, let's say, more positive self affirming statements that maybe I can do this, it's not that hard, I've dealt with things like that before, I can still do it, right? So you can write some affirmations for yourself. Or you can try some temporary distraction by, let's say, watching a YouTube video, some motivating video, listening to a podcast, reading a book, having a discussion with someone. That you can do. Or do something that you love. So most of us, we have this tendency to deprive ourselves from the basic joys of our life. For example, if I love, let's say, if I love painting, or if I love chit chatting with people or gossiping with people, when I am going through these low times, I'll think that one fine day when I'll get happy, then only I'll engage in all of these activities. So you don't have to wait for that one fine day. You find out at least few minutes, maybe if not daily, on an alternate day basis, or at least, you know, once after every 3-4 days, find out time to enjoy, or to, get that small break, because all of us deserve that break, because there won't be an absolute time when you will be like completely happy and euphoric. This is what life is about. There will be ups and downs, so you have to enjoy, you have to find out ways to relax and calm despite of, the chaos that is happening around. um and try to remember, why is it so important for you? How is the anxiety helping you, or how has it gotten you, you know how has it gotten in the way of your work and in the way of your goals? So try to sit for some time and think about it. Or uh, or basically, the other thing that you can do is by telling someone that you're anxious, like call someone and tell them that you are anxious. And if you cannot call them, possibly think about what they'll suggest you, right? So you can try all these small techniques and, things in your day-to-day life whenever you feel very anxious, or very scared or fearful of things. So this brings me to the end of my discussion. So if you guys still want to do that exercise, I'm okay with it, but I think Purba ma'am is also waiting. We should not let her wait for so long.
यस स्वाति, आपका सेशन जो आपने टॉक अपनी जो टेक्निक्स शेयर की हैं एस्पिरेंट्स के साथ, और जितने भी लोगों ने आज हमें यहाँ ज्वाइन किया है, जितने भी पार्टिसिपेंट्स हैं, वो बहुत वंडरफुल टेक्निक्स हैं। दो सुनने में थोड़ी सिंपल भी लग सकती है, लेकिन उनकी अपनी एक यूजफुल है वो बहुत ज्यादा। और
Yeah.
मैं क्योंकि थ्रू आउट आपने जितनी ये टेक्निक्स बताई, ग्राउंडिंग स्किल्स है या विजुअल स्पेस, सेफ स्पेस विजुअलाइजेशन, डी क्लटरिंग, ये बहुत ऐसी टेक्निक्स हैं जिनको अगर हम अगर व्हेन वी आर फीलिंग एंशियस या हमें कुछ प्रेशर हो रहा है, स्ट्रेस हो रहा है, अगर इन टेक्निक्स को इम्प्लीमेंट करें तो बहुत ज्यादा वंडरफुल और अमेजिंग टेक्निक्स होती हैं। तो आपके इस सेशन में आपने एकदम प्रैक्टिकल जो एस्पेक्ट्स हैं स्ट्रेस को कैसे टैकल करें, बिल्कुल उसको कैसे टारगेट करके अपने को, क्योंकि स्मॉल अमाउंट ऑफ एंजाइटी जैसा कि आपने बताया वो जरूरी है हमारी परफॉर्मेंस को एनहांस करने के लिए, लेकिन अगर वो बढ़ जाए और हम एक परपेचुअल स्टेट ऑफ एंजाइटी में ही रहें या एंशियस होते रहें तो वो टोल लेता है, और उसको कैसे डील करें। तो थैंक यू वेरी मच, आपका बहुत अच्छा एक सेशन